Welcome. You found a quiet corner of time. If you're here to rest, to drift away, or simply slow down, you're in the right place. Tonight, we'll journey together into the gentle rhythm of a medieval day, a time of soft mornings, honest work, and peaceful nights. Let your thoughts settle, your breath ease, and allow the story to carry you. The night lingers still, wrapped around the village like a heavy wool cloak. The world is quiet, hushed beneath a thick quilt of darkness. A pale crescent moon hangs low in the sky, its light barely reaching the packed dirt paths that wind between the cottages. Stars flicker like cold lanterns in the sky, their glow softened by a gentle veil of mist that has gathered over the meadows and fields. In the heart of the village, where thatched roofs rest under silver shadows, all is still. A few embers smoulder in hearths, casting dim light and warmth into otherwise sleeping homes. The village breathes slowly, deeply, its rhythm as calm as the resting earth beneath it. Inside one such cottage, a simple home of wattle and daub, life waits just beneath the surface of sleep. A common man, unnamed in the great books of history, lies nestled beside his wife on a mattress stuffed with straw and lavender. The aroma lingers faintly in the air, soothing and earthy. At the foot of the bed, their youngest child sleeps curled like a kitten, a small chest rising and falling in peaceful rhythm. Outside the wooden shutters, the first birds have not yet begun their songs. Even the animals wait. The goats rest huddled in their pen. The hens are quiet in their coop, perched in the warmth of their roost. It is the deepest part of night, the threshold where the old day has truly ended and the new one has yet to begin. A soft breeze flutters through a crack in the wooden wall, carrying with it the scent of wet leaves and distant wood smoke. The man shifts slightly, eyes still closed, one arm draped protectively across his wife. A dream plays at the edge of his mind, a memory, perhaps, of walking through the forest as a boy, chasing fireflies with laughter on his lips and mud on his boots. In this moment, time holds its breath. The world is between things, between darkness and light, between dream and waking, between yesterday and today. This is the quietest time, the gentlest time. The fire in the hearth has gone cold, save for a single glowing coal beneath the ash. It pulses faintly, a heartbeat of warmth that holds on through the long night. Dried herbs hang from a beam overhead, sage, thyme, rosemary, their silhouettes swaying in the draught. A clay cup half full of yesterday's water sits on the wooden table, catching a sliver of moonlight that finds its way through the shutter's edge. Even the old dog, curled beneath a bench near the door, does not stir. Minutes pass, then more. The mist outside begins to shift, lifting slowly from the grass like a sigh. Somewhere far off, an owl calls, low and mournful. The trees beyond the village rustle gently, their branches creaking like old bones as the wind passes through. In the calm of this in-between time, the village dreams. The first light of dawn stretches gently across the village, thin and pale, like a painter's brush gliding across a canvas. It seeps in through the cracks between the wooden shutters, casting faint lines of gold on the earthen floor of the cottage. A rooster crows in the distance. Once, twice, then again. It's not a sudden noise, but rather a soft signal, woven into the rhythm of life, a cue not just for the animals, but for the people too. The common man, still nameless in the great sweep of time, stirs at the sound. His eyes flutter open, heavy with sleep, but familiar with the early hour. For a few moments more, he simply lies there, taking in the stillness of the space around him. His wife breathes softly beside him, face half hidden beneath a woolen blanket. Their child murmurs something inaudible in a dream, shifting in the straw with a gentle rustle. The man takes a deep breath. The air is cool and smells faintly of smoke and earth, and the ghost of yesterday's stew still lingers in the corners of the room. He moves slowly, quietly. Years of habit have taught him to rise without stirring too much. The wooden floor greets the soles of his feet with a familiar chill as he steps into his boots and pulls a wool tunic over his linen undershirt. The sound of the shutters being unlatched and gently swung open is small but satisfying. Outside, the sky is still tinted with indigo, the last threads of night retreating from the rising sun. In the yard beyond the doorway, the goats begin to stir. The chickens flutter their wings, disturbed by the breeze. He walks to the well at the edge of the path and hauls up a bucket of cold, clean water. It splashes lightly as he carries it back, wetting the ground and darkening the soil beneath his boots. He pours some into a wooden basin and splashes his face, the cold jolting him fully into the day. Inside, his wife has begun to rise as well. She wraps a shawl over her shoulders and lights the small fire in the hearth. It catches slowly, the dry kindling crackling into flame. The fire's warmth begins to bloom in the room, driving away the lingering cold. She hums a soft tune, one passed from her own mother's lips, and the man smiles quietly, content in this simple routine. Breakfast is modest, a piece of coarse bread, a bit of hard cheese, and a few preserved berries left over from the autumn's harvest. They eat without hurry. The child is still waking, rubbing his eyes and yawning from his bundle of blankets. The dog stretches and yawns as well, tail wagging as he's given a bit of bread crust. Outside, the rest of the village is beginning to stir. Other shutters open, a door creaks, a woman's voice calls gently to a child. A pair of crows caw from the rooftop, flapping their wings as they rise into the morning air. The man steps outside once more and looks toward the horizon. The sun is nearly above the trees now, casting long beams of gold across the misty fields. It will be a fair day, he thinks, perhaps a little warm by afternoon. He takes one last breath of the morning air, heavy with dew and promise, and turns back to the cottage. There is work to be done. But for this brief moment, there is only light and breath, and the calm certainty of a new day. The sun now hovers above the tree line, casting its light fully upon the village. Shadows stretch gently across the earth, and the scent of warm soil rises into the air. It is morning in earnest now, and with it comes the call of duty, not shouted or demanded, but understood in every movement of this small and steady life. The man steps into the yard, a worn wooden bucket in hand. He checks on the goats first, who greet him with impatient bleats. They nuzzle him, sniffing for food, their breath warm and sweet with hay. He feeds them grain from a small cloth sack, strokes their coarse fur, and inspects their hooves with careful hands. This small act, repeated day after day, is one of many quiet devotions. His wife kneels by the hearth, shaping dough for the midday bread. The cottage smells of yeast and wood smoke. Outside, the child gathers kindling from under the eaves, stacking it with solemn pride. Chickens scratch at the ground nearby, clucking softly, pecking at crumbs scattered from the morning's meal. As the chores begin in full, the rhythm of the village becomes more defined. Neighbors pass by, nodding in greeting, sometimes pausing for a brief word. One man shares news of a traveler who passed through the market 2 days prior. Another speaks of a sickly calf born that morning. These exchanges are quiet, practical, but meaningful. Here, each person is both witness and participant in the gentle turning of the day. Later, the man helps repair a neighbor's fence, the two of them working with old nails and repurposed boards. No coin is exchanged, only the mutual trust that what is given today may be returned tomorrow. The boy watches them work, learning not from instruction, but from observation, absorbing the lessons of patience and craftsmanship. In the village square, a few women have begun preparing for the next market day. Herbs are sorted, baskets mended, and talk drifts through the air like music. Children play nearby, chasing one another between trees, their laughter high and bright against the background of birdsong. By mid-morning, sweat beads lightly on the man's brow. His work is not yet done, but there is satisfaction in the labor. His hands, though worn and calloused, move with practiced grace. The sun, steady and golden above, casts a warm glow on everything it touches. Back at the cottage, his wife has placed a damp cloth over the rising dough. She sits on the low bench, spinning wool, the fibers slipping through her fingers with care. The dog lies at her feet, tail thumping lazily. Her thoughts drift, of upcoming feast days, of the child's future, of the cycles that tie one season to the next. The family reconvenes for a quick drink of water and a shared smile. There is comfort in each other's presence, in knowing that each day is built upon these small, dependable acts. As they return to their tasks, the village carries on, a web of simple lives joined by routine, by soil, by sky. The path to the village square is lined with ruts and scattered stones, worn smooth by years of footfall and cartwheels. As the man walks it, the morning sun casts long shadows behind him. He carries with him a worn tool, an iron hinge in need of repair, and a handful of woven cloth to barter. His steps are slow, unhurried. There is no race against time here, only a gentle progress forward. The blacksmith's forge stands just beyond the edge of the square. Built of thick stone and timber, it is darker inside than the other buildings, lit only by the glow of embers and the occasional flare of flame from the open furnace. The air is rich with the smell of smoke, iron, and sweat. Sparks leap like fireflies each time the hammer strikes the anvil. The blacksmith, a man of great bulk and soft eyes, nods in greeting without breaking the rhythm of his work. The commoner watches for a moment, admiring the smooth, practiced movements, the way metal bends and yields beneath heat and willpower. They speak little, a brief exchange, a nod toward the hinge, and the blacksmith takes it with a grunt of understanding. While the repairs are made, the man walks toward the baker's stall across the square. There, warm loaves rest in neat rows on rough wooden boards, the tops golden and dusted with flour. The baker's wife, red-cheeked and cheerful, offers him a crust to sample. He smiles, thanks her, and selects 2 small loaves, one for today and one to keep for tomorrow's supper. Nearby, others come and go. A boy runs past with a sack of grain. An elderly woman examines a basket of turnips with care. Every movement in the square is part of the village's quiet conversation, told not in words but in gestures, glances, and exchanges. No one is in a rush. Here the rhythm of life is slow, steady, respectful. The man returns to the forge. The hinge is ready, heated and hammered into shape, now cooled and glinting faintly in the sunlight that spills through the door. He leaves behind a strip of cloth and a small pouch of dried herbs, fair trade, accepted without question. As he makes his way home, he passes under the spreading branches of a great elm tree, its leaves whispering above him. He pauses, resting a hand on the bark. Children have tied bits of ribbon to its lower branches, a custom for good fortune. He smiles and adds a piece of twine to a branch, saying nothing aloud, but carrying the thought with him. Back at the cottage, his wife greets him with a knowing look, eyes falling to the warm bread in his hands. The repaired hinge will be used tomorrow, perhaps, when he mends the door to the small shed behind the house. But for now, the warmth of the bread is enough. The fire is burning stronger in the hearth, the dough is nearly ready, and outside, the sun climbs ever higher, promising more hours of light, of labor, and of the soft grace that fills each ordinary day. The fields await. Beyond the cottages, past the low stone wall covered in creeping ivy, lie the wide open stretches of tilled earth and pasture. Here the man's hands find their purpose, just as his father's did, and his father's before him. He carries a small, worn sickle, the metal dulled by years, but still sharp enough for the work at hand. A cloth bag rests at his side, stitched and patched many times, now filled with seed. The path to the field is lined with wildflowers and the buzzing of bees. A pair of swallows dart overhead, their shadows skipping across the grass like whispers. Reaching the edge of the field, the man pauses. He kneels, scooping a handful of soil, crumbling it between his fingers. Damp, dark, alive. A good sign. The land is generous when treated with patience and respect. He offers a silent thanks before rising and beginning the day's labor. The morning hours pass in quiet effort. He moves with slow precision, sowing seed in long, practiced sweeps, his boots pressing into the earth. He works steadily, occasionally stopping to straighten, stretch, and wipe his brow with the back of his hand. The sun climbs higher, its warmth soaking into his skin. A light breeze passes now and then, rustling the grain at the edge of the field. Not far off, another villager tends his own plot. They wave to one another across the rows, exchanging nothing more than a nod. Here, that is enough. Time drifts gently. There is no haste. Each motion is purposeful, each furrow, a step in the slow, essential dance between man and land. A bird lands on a fence post nearby, watching with a tilted head. Somewhere in the distance, a bell chimes faintly, the hour turning again. By midday, the man rests beneath a willow tree at the field's edge. He sips from a water skin, its contents cool and refreshing. He eats a small piece of bread, torn from the loaf he carried home that morning. The crust is firm, the flavor simple and honest. He leans back against the trunk, closing his eyes for a few minutes, the leaves above swaying in gentle rhythm. The land does not ask for more than what one can give. It rewards patience, steadiness, and care. In return, it provides sustenance, grounding, and quiet strength. These truths do not need to be spoken aloud. They are felt in the arms, in the back, in the heart. After his rest, he returns to work, but his pace is slower now, more deliberate. He knows that he does not need to finish everything today. The field will wait. The season is long. What matters most is the intention, the care put into each row. As the sun begins to lower just slightly, casting longer shadows across the soil, he gathers his tools and walks back toward the village. The birds follow, flying low across the fields. Behind him, the land holds his work, quiet and complete. As the sun reaches its peak, high above the rooftops and gently swaying trees, the air warms and stills. A quiet hush settles over the village, as if the world itself has paused to take a breath. The sounds of labor ease, tools are set aside, animals retreat to shaded corners. It is the hour for rest, for nourishment, and for gathering. The man returns home with steady steps, dust clinging to the edges of his boots and the smell of earth still clinging to his sleeves. As he opens the wooden door, he's met with the comforting aroma of baking bread. The fire crackles softly in the hearth. His wife, cheeks flushed from the warmth, is removing a fresh loaf from the stone oven, wrapping it in cloth to keep it warm. They do not speak at first. Words aren't needed. She offers a smile, and he returns it. The boy is already seated on the floor, carefully placing small carved figures into a row, the remnants of his morning play. The dog lies nearby, head on its paws, eyes half-lidded in the glow of the hearth. They sit together around the small table. There is bread, a bowl of lentils, and a wedge of cheese, simple fare, yet deeply satisfying. The man breaks the loaf and passes it to his wife, who tears pieces for the boy and for herself. A clay pitcher holds water, drawn earlier from the well, and they each take turns sipping from carved wooden cups. The meal is eaten slowly. The boy speaks between bites, telling of a squirrel he saw in the tree near the coop, of how he counted the eggs and found one missing, of how the neighbor's dog barked at a shadow. His parents listen with gentle amusement, adding only occasional words of encouragement. After the plates have been wiped clean with the last of the bread, they remain at the table a while longer. The man leans back on the bench, arms crossed loosely, his gaze drawn to the flickering firelight. His wife begins to spin wool again, the fibers whispering through her fingers, her rhythm unbroken and serene. The boy yawns and climbs into the bed, curling into the same spot he left at dawn. His nap will be brief, but enough to renew his small energy for the rest of the day. Outside, the sounds of birds are muted, as though even they have paused to rest. The trees sway lazily in the breeze, their branches casting shifting shadows across the cottage wall. A neighbor walks by, leading a donkey burdened with sacks of grain, and nods silently as he passes. This midday hour, though fleeting, is sacred. It is the reward for the morning's effort and the gathering of strength for the afternoon's duties. It is a time to simply be, with each other, with the warmth of the hearth, with the rhythm of the world slowed to stillness. And as the man stands once more to prepare for the rest of his day, he carries with him the quiet peace of this moment, a memory already softening at the edges, ready to become part of the day's gentle story. As the warmth of midday begins to soften, the man gathers a small satchel, a simple axe, and a coiled rope. The firewood is running low, and the forest beyond the village offers what is needed. Not only fuel for the hearth, but berries, herbs, and sometimes a moment of solitude. He walks alone through the narrow trail that leads away from the cottages. The air grows cooler under the shade of the trees, where the sunlight filters down in golden shafts that dance with every shifting breeze. Leaves crunch gently beneath his boots, and the scent of pine and moss fills the air. A crow calls from a distant branch. The forest is not deep, but it is old. Gnarled oaks, tall birches, and thick underbrush guard secrets known only to those who pass through it daily. The man knows which trees to look for: fallen limbs from the storm last week, dry branches, and the smaller shrubs that grow along the edges. He does not cut living trees unless he must. The land gives enough. As he works, he keeps his eyes open for useful herbs. He finds a patch of yarrow growing near a moss-covered log and kneels to gather some. The flowers will be dried and hung near the hearth, good for treating cuts and calming fevers. He adds them carefully to his satchel. A short while later, he finds the broken trunk of a birch, already dried from time and sun. With rhythmic strokes of the axe, he splits it into smaller sections, stacking them neatly. Each strike echoes softly through the trees. There is peace in the repetition. He pauses to rest, sitting on a boulder worn smooth by time. A soft breeze stirs the canopy above, and for a moment the woods seem to breathe with him. He drinks from his water skin and eats a small apple from his pocket, tart and sweet. Nearby, a squirrel watches cautiously, twitching its tail. As he begins the walk back, his arms now filled with kindling and a bundle of split wood bound by rope, he passes through a clearing where wild strawberries grow. He kneels again, gathering just enough to bring a smile to his son's face, a gift from the forest. Before reaching the village path once more, he stops at a tree he's passed many times, a tall ash, bent slightly by the wind. Years ago, he had carved a small mark in its bark, a reminder of a day spent here with his father. The mark has faded with time, but he runs his fingers over it still. By the time he emerges from the woods, the village is again alive with motion. Smoke rises gently from chimneys, a cow lows in the distance. Children's laughter carries through the air. He steps back onto the path, the weight of the wood on his back steady, his heart lightened by the time alone. At the cottage, his wife takes the wood with a nod of thanks. The boy delights in the strawberries, his smile sticky and wide. The fire is stoked anew, and the scent of stew fills the room. The forest has given, and the day moves gently forward. The afternoon air carries with it a subtle shift, an edge of coolness that hints at the coming change. Though the sun still shines bright above the treetops and the fields remain golden, there is something in the way the wind moves through the grass, something in the scent of the earth that speaks of the passing of time. The man steps outside the cottage and looks skyward. A flock of birds crosses high overhead, flying low and together, their wings catching the light as they head southward. He watches them in silence, eyes narrowed slightly, a soft expression on his face. The seasons speak not with voices but with signs, and he has learned over the years how to read them. He walks slowly toward the edge of the village, taking the familiar path that skirts the grain fields and meadows. In the distance, trees are beginning to turn, the deep greens of summer giving way to amber and rust. The sound of the breeze rustling through drying leaves is gentler now, more wistful than wild. As he walks, he remembers other seasons. Harsh winters with fires kept alive through long nights, springs when the streams ran high with meltwater, summers of sunburnt shoulders and bountiful harvests, each year etched into memory like a line carved in stone. Along the path, he stops to check the wild blackberry bushes. Most of the fruit is gone now, picked by children or birds, but a few dark clusters remain, shriveled and sweet. He picks one and lets it sit on his tongue a moment before eating it. The taste is strong, the kind of flavor that feels like a farewell. Back near the cottage, his wife is hanging bunches of herbs from a beam. Lavender, rosemary, mint, all harvested that morning and bound with string. They will dry slowly in the warmth of the hearth, their scents lingering in the room through the colder months ahead. Inside, she speaks of preparations, thickening the quilt with new stuffing, checking the seal on the storage jars, patching clothes worn thin by a summer's work. These are not chores but acts of care, threads in the fabric that keeps their family warm through the dark seasons. The man listens and nods, his thoughts drifting again. He steps out once more as the shadows lengthen and finds a seat on a low stone wall, warmed slightly from the day's sun. From there, he watches the world with a still heart. There is beauty in every season, he thinks, not only in the blossom or the harvest, but in the quiet preparation, the letting go, the remembering. This cycle is what binds them to the land, to one another. It teaches humility, patience, and appreciation. He closes his eyes for a moment and lets the breeze carry over him, cool now but not yet cold. A promise of change and a reminder that life, too, turns like the wheel of the year. The fire inside is steady, the stew is thickening, the evening draws near. The next morning begins earlier than usual. A gentle fog clings to the ground as the man laces his boots and wraps a rough-spun shawl over his shoulders. The day of the village market comes only once each week, and with it, a brief pulse of energy and exchange that breaks the usual rhythm of stillness. His wife has already risen, packing a small basket with items to trade, bundles of dried herbs, a few eggs, and a length of hand-woven cloth. The boy watches sleepily from the bed, eyes half open, head resting on his folded arms. The man sets out along the main path toward the market square. The journey is not long, but he takes his time. Morning dew glistens on the grass. Birds flutter in the hedgerows. A neighbor walks ahead, leading a cart of turnips and beets, pulled by a tired-looking mule. They nod to one another, companions in quiet purpose. As the village square comes into view, the hush of dawn is replaced by the soft murmurs of early commerce. Stalls of rough timber line the open space, draped in linen and filled with goods. Wheels of cheese, earthenware pots, salted fish, dried apples, and simple tools. The air smells of smoke, herbs, and freshly turned soil. The man makes his rounds, exchanging greetings and small trades. He trades his herbs for a skein of wool yarn. He offers the cloth in return for a small clay jar of honey. Coins change hands here and there, but most exchanges are quiet and personal, rooted in mutual need and trust. Children dart between stalls, wide-eyed at the wooden toys and sweetmeats. A travelling minstrel strums a soft tune near the well, his fingers deft and worn. Some villagers stop to listen, others hum along. Later, he pauses beside a stall run by a woman who sells candles, each one hand-dipped, the wax smooth and golden. He selects two, imagining their soft light flickering against the cottage walls in the nights to come. He places a few coins in her palm and receives a warm smile in return. By mid-morning, the square grows busier. A horse pulls a cart filled with barrels of cider from a nearby orchard. An older man tells stories to a gathered group, his voice low and gravelly, punctuated by laughter. The boy from earlier is now helping his mother at their stall, arranging dried beans with care. The man lingers, not in search of anything in particular, but simply taking in the scene. Market days are not only for trade, they are a gathering of lives, a stitching together of people who, though separate in their homes and fields, are bound by the same soil, the same sky. With his basket full, he turns toward home. The path is brighter now, the sun rising higher, the fog burned away. Birds sing more loudly. The village behind him hums with life. Back at the cottage, his wife begins to prepare lunch with the new honey and a bit of cheese wrapped in leaves. The boy sits beside the hearth, turning a wooden cup slowly in his hands. The candles are placed on the shelf, saved for the long nights ahead. The market has passed, but the warmth of its presence lingers, like the scent of apples in the autumn air. The day begins to dim. The sky, once a vast stretch of blue, now wears streaks of gold, amber, and lavender. As the sun sinks lower toward the hills beyond the fields, the village bathes in its last tender light. The man stands outside the cottage, arms folded loosely across his chest. The scent of the earth has deepened, rich and full from the warmth of the afternoon. Shadows stretch long across the ground, reaching from trees and rooftops like fingers of the coming night. Children begin to return to their homes, trailing laughter and dust. Chickens are guided into their coops. Goats bleat softly as they settle into their pens. A few neighbors call out final words of farewell or reminder across fences. The air is calm but full, as though the village is taking a breath together, grateful for the day that has passed. The man retrieves a small stool and sits beneath the eaves of his cottage. His wife joins him shortly after, drying her hands on her apron. For a time they sit in silence, watching the sky change. Birds wheel above them, dipping low before disappearing into the trees. From their perch, they can see smoke beginning to rise from other chimneys, curling lazily upward before dissolving into the cool air. The boy brings them a handful of small pebbles, excited to show how smooth they are. They listen, nodding with smiles, his joy infectious in its simplicity. Inside, the fire is stoked once more. A pot hangs low over the flames, the scent of stew thick and savory. Bread is sliced, a bit of honey drizzled over the last of the soft cheese. These small pleasures mark the end of the day. As twilight settles, the family eats together once more. They speak in soft tones, of tasks completed, of the next day's plans, of a neighbor's kind gesture. There is no rush to finish, no need to fill the silence. Each moment is savored. When the meal is done, the man steps outside again, just as the last rays of sunlight disappear behind the hill. He watches the horizon one final time, then turns to the door. The thatched roof above glows faintly in the moonlight, the sky above it now dotted with stars. The village is quiet, the day is done, and all is at peace. The night has settled over the village like a woolen cloak, soft and thick, muffling all sound but the gentle creak of wood and the occasional rustle of the wind through thatch. Inside the cottage, the fire glows steadily. Shadows dance on the walls, flickering and stretching in rhythm with the flames. The family has drawn closer to the hearth. The boy lies on his stomach, chin resting on his hands, eyes fixed on the fire. His parents sit side by side, each cradling a carved wooden cup filled with a warm herbal brew. Outside, the stars scatter across the sky like silver seeds. These are the hours reserved for stories. The man clears his throat, leans slightly toward the fire, and begins. His voice is low and even, meant not to excite but to soothe. He tells a tale passed down from his grandfather and his grandfather before him, a story of a clever fox and a shepherd who once wandered too far from his flock. The tale is simple, but told with care, shaped by pauses and looks and the soft intonation of a memory being relived. The boy listens, wide-eyed and wordless, caught in the spell of the telling. His mind drifts alongside the characters, walking forest paths, crossing moonlit meadows, hiding in quiet hollows where secrets linger. When the story ends, silence hangs in the room like a final line in a poem. The fire crackles, a log splits with a pop, and the boy exhales softly, content. Then the mother tells one of her own, a tale of a girl who could speak with birds, who learned the language of the wind, and who once saved her village by whispering to the trees. Her voice is different, sing-song in parts, rhythmic and flowing. The man listens with closed eyes, the steam from his cup curling upward. Beyond the walls of the cottage, the village sleeps. Dogs rest curled beneath carts, cows doze in their stalls. All around, quiet reigns. The boy, now drowsy, curls beneath a woolen blanket near the hearth. His eyes flutter once, then again, and close. His breath becomes deep and steady. The stories have worked their magic. The man and woman sit in stillness for a while longer. They speak only in glances now, comforted by the presence of the fire, the warmth of the room, the peace of a day well lived. And as the flames die slowly to glowing embers, they too prepare for rest. Candles are blown out, Doors are latched, the night holds them gently. Outside, the wind whispers through the trees, the stars blink slowly in the velvet dark, and the stories linger, not just in the air, but in the hearts of those who told them, and in the dreams of the one who listened. The cottage has gone still, only the soft sound of breath and the occasional pop from the hearth remain. The fire is now little more than a bed of glowing coals, casting long, flickering shadows against the curved walls. The family sleeps. Outside, the village rests under a blanket of stars. The thatched rooftops gleam with dew, and smoke curls in faint wisps from the last of the evening fires. The moon hangs full and pale above the horizon, watching over the world below in silence. The man lies on his back, arms folded over his chest. His dreams are quiet, reflections of the day gone by, of small successes, of remembered laughter, of the warmth of the hearth and the feel of soil in his hands. In his sleep, a smile flickers briefly across his face. The boy breathes evenly beside his mother, wrapped in a patchwork quilt. His dreams are brighter, more fanciful, foxes with talking voices, birds who guide lost travelers, and forests where the trees hum lullabies. He turns once, nestling deeper beneath the covers. The dog stirs in his sleep, legs twitching in pursuit of some imagined rabbit, then falls still again. Above the village, clouds drift like old ghosts, slow and silent. Somewhere in the woods, an owl calls once, then again, its voice lonely but serene. The forest listens, and the fields lie still. There is no rush here, no ticking clock, no distant horns or ringing bells, only breath and dreams and the soft rotation of the earth beneath a sky that has seen 1,000 such nights. In the cottage, the embers fade. The wind sighs gently through the eaves, the world exhales, and the village sleeps on. And when morning comes, it will begin again, quietly, gently, and with the same grace that wrapped this day in peace. Thank you for walking through this day, for stepping into a time when life moved slowly, when hands shaped each hour, and rest came as honestly as the work before it. Let these sounds and images carry you into your own rest. May your dreams be soft. May your heart be still. Good night.